Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all 3 past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman, Mike Beer kicking off the Breeders' Cup Saturday Pick 6 with race number 7, the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Turf. Let's take a look at the field. We're going 1.5 miles for $5 million. And Rebels Romance won this race in 2022, and it looks like the old boy hasn't lost a step.
Boy, he's been back in really good form this year, Dan. It seems like he's the horse to beat in here. He's got, post 11, I guess that's probably not where they wanted him to draw, but he's got tactical speed. He'll be forward in here.
We won't have a time form U.S. pace projector in this race with so many European horses entered, but one of the Europeans, Luxembourg, has speed, and Cabo Spirit went gate to wire last time out. I think his only hope is to try to get to the front. I think they're going to be very aggressive with him. Yeah. Wingspan's another filly, though, that has also shown good speed.
Yeah, she really has. She's not always easy to rate either when they try to do that. We'll see what they elect to do with her. Cabo Spirit did wire a grade 2 last night, but on a super slow pace. I sort of feel like Luxembourg might be the horse on the lead in here.
One of the Japanese entrants drew the rail, the number 1, Rusham Park. I really like this horse's performance 3 starts back, going 1.25 miles. It was a good effort, but they stepped him up in his last 2 races, and it just hasn't worked out. His last race was a tough Group 2. The runner-up came back to run 3rd in a Group 1. The 12th place horse came back to run 2nd in a Group 2, but that race just didn't inspire me.
Just hasn't quite been up to the top level so far, has he, Dan? A couple of times they tried it, just hasn't really worked out. So we'll see what happens to him here. He's also never been the 1.5 miles.
Emily Upjohn is a very dangerous contender for trainer John Gosden. It's been a long time between drinks, about 1.5 years since her most recent win. But that was a good Group 1 win in the Coronation Cup. Her most recent start, the Prix Vermeil, she caught very soft ground, but she ran 3rd against the 2 horses that would come back and run 1-2 in the Arc. That's tough company.
Yeah, and it seemed like she really ran. I mean, she had a chance to win that race too, but it seemed like maybe that was a step in the right direction finally, because so far as a 5-year-old, it seems like maybe she hasn't quite been the same horse, but that was definitely a move in the right direction last time, Dan. And they elected for this race over the filly mare turf, and I think that's because of distance. The 1.5 miles suits her perfectly.
John Gosden is a wizard, and he thinks 1.5 miles is right up Emily Upjohn's alley, and who are we to argue with him? The 6th place horse in that last race came back to run 3rd in a Group 1 as well. Shahryar is the number 3, and this horse won the Dubai Shima Classic way back in 2022 and was good enough to finish 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Turf last year. Yeah. I thought his first 2 starts, I thought his final start last year in the Arima Kinen, a very, very tough race in Japan, was a good performance. I thought his Shima Classic this year was good, but he was no match for Rebels Romance. The last race, the Sapporo Kinen, that to me was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, it seems like he wasn't up to par last time. I was going to be a little forgiving of his Shima Classic 2 starts, just because there was no pace in there. And while he never was able to threaten Rebels Romance, he was always behind that horse and always in chase mode through the stretch there. It just wasn't going to happen for him. They've repeated the pattern, Dan. He ran really well in this race last year, went 3rd, and they've got him on the same exact schedule this year.
And he didn't run very well in the Sapporo Kinen last year, and then came back and ran 3rd again. So it's just possible they're primed and ready with Shahryar, who's run some big races internationally. Luxembourg is the number 4, and he's a bit of a curious case. He won a Group 1 3 starts back, the Coronation Cup, but it just seemed like they handed him the lead that day, and he just walked the dog on the front and sprinted on home. He's done some good things in his career, but the King George VI was kind of an odd race. I thought he was more of a pace setter than anything else. That was a bit odd, coming off a Group 1 victory. And last time out in the Irish Champion, going 1.25 miles, first time cheek pieces, he showed good early speed. He just couldn't run with those horses late. The 4th place finisher coming back to run 3rd in the Arc, the 7th 3rd in the Champions Stakes.
Really good field in there. He was up close. The pace was solid in that most recent start, and he was just no match when they came for him. Same thing 2 starts back. I mean, that was a really lively pace that he was a part of, but Rebels Romance was also part of that pace. Rebels Romance was still around at the end. This horse was not. They just totally overwhelmed him, and you've already noted that he got the big win 3 starts back, but he had all the best of it that day.
J.R. Ebb is up next, and this horse grinded it out to win a Group 2 going 1 mile and 5/16, was it, last time out? I think the 1.5 miles is going to be just fine watching his running style. He looks like a big, grinding type horse. He went to the lead that day. He had to work very hard the last 2 furlongs, but he was extremely game, and the 5th place finisher came back to win the champion.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. He hasn't been this far yet, but he kind of seems like the kind of horse who's going to handle more ground. He's got really good tactical speed, which I like about him. He's still lightly raced enough as a 3-year-old. I mean, there are ways to make a pretty convincing case for this horse. He had a pretty soft trip trip last time, but I like the way he dug in and held on.
Far Bridge is a horse that I think was a little bit dirtied up going into the Sword Dancer. He was kind of bumped in tight on the far turn in the Manhattan when he finished third. Then in the United Nations, you've mentioned it several times, you wanted to be inside that day, and he was hung out wide. He comes back, he wins the Sword Dancer, then he backs it up in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. The race we're showing you right now. Warlike Goddess looking for a three-peats on the outside, but Far Bridge and Joel Rosario sneak up the rail. They took advantage of a fast pace, but this horse is in raging form.
Yeah, this is good stuff for him in his most recent win. A new buyer top for this horse. The trip ultimately worked out, but he ran really well again. He's been a little bit of a revelation since they've finally stretched him all the way out there, and he's handled it really well.
Grand Sonata was no match for Far Bridge in the Sword Dancer 2 starts back. He did come back to score at Kentucky Downs. Let's watch that race. I thought he got a really nice setup in here. Yeah. This pace was fast for a mile and a half, and Grand Sonata is very game to win. Now he's got to up his game for a more conventional turf course against what I believe are better horses.
It doesn't seem like he's really this kind of a horse, but he's ultra consistent. He gets really good trips in his races. He's always overlooked at the windows. I don't think he can win here, Dan, but he'll give a good account of himself. He's a good horse.
Cabo Spirit, the number 8, pulled off a $50 shocker when wiring the field in the John Henry Turf Championship last time out at a mile and a quarter. They just let this horse have everything his own way. 50-2, 115. They didn't respect him, and he made them pay. He beat 3 of these.
Yeah, I mean, even if he gets to the lead in this race, they're going to make him go faster than that. Now he's got to do it over a mile and a half. You can just see it all on paper last time. Really slow pace. Then he throws a 22-1 at him on the back end.
El Ensenal is the number 9. This is a Group 1 winner in Argentina. 2 starts in North America. Hasn't run really well either time, although in the Del Mar Handicap, he was returning off of a lengthy layoff. And in the John Henry, he was chasing a slow pace. But he had to run better for me to actually consider him here.
Yeah, it's actually kind of surprising that he's even entered in this race based on what he's done in his last 2 starts.
Wingspan is a very lightly raced filly. She has a ton of upside. Aidan O'Brien could have run her in the filly and mare turf. They decide to go here off a good second in the Champions Fillies and Mares only a couple of weeks ago, so they're striking while the iron is hot.
Yeah, I actually like that about her too, Dan, because it feels like she has a lot of upside. I mean, you got to realize too, this filly just made her debut about 6 months ago, and now here she is in the Breeders' Cup turf. She hasn't been this far either, but she stays all day long. They can put her on the lead if they have to, but she'll sit. If they can get her to settle kindly off the pace in her, I think she'll run at the end.
Rebels Romance won a Group 1 in Germany most recently, and it's the exact same prep he used when he won the 2022 Breeders' Cup turf and did it from well off of the pace. He had an abbreviated and unlucky 2023, but he's come back smoking this year with that win in Dubai, and then of course the win in Germany last time.
Yeah, he got the job done last time. It feels like that was just a prep to get him here. The race 2 starts back was a really hard race on him, Dan. They were going great guns up on the pace in that race, and he was part of it, still around at the end. This horse is in great form right now.
Gold Phoenix is a cool older horse that gives it his all every single time. He was 4th in the Breeders' Cup turf last year, rallying from well out of it. He scored in the Del Mar Handicap right here. He loves it here, 4 for 6. And last time out, can't you just say there was no pace for him and he had no chance? Maybe he's dirtied up and can again sneak into the number.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably the right way to look at him. I mean, he's hard to win this race considering what he's up against with all the European shipping in, but he outran his odds last year. He could do it again.
There goes Harvard, completes this field of 13, 2nd in the John Henry Turf Championship last time out. Another situation where the pace wasn't there, but overall he had a good trip, and I have to be honest, I bet him that day. I thought he had a big look turning for home, and I was disappointed he didn't get past the 1,000,000-to-1 shot.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, listen, again, when they're coming home in 22 and change going that distance, it's going to be hard to pass horses, but he still felt like he had a shot at it and he wasn't quite good enough.
This is a very tough race and a great betting race, I believe. Who do you like?
Listen, I'm not against Rebels Romance. I don't have him on top in here, but I'm not against him. I think he's way the horse to beat. I'm going to try the filly Wingspan in this race. I think it's interesting that this is where O'Brien elects to run her, and I like the way she's progressing.
I think she has a lot of upside still. Mike mentioned that she only got started a few months ago. I'm going with the other O'Brien, Luxembourg. I know he might be a little bit dressed up. I'm hoping he can get to the lead because that's his best running style, but I think Ryan will at least have him close, and maybe they won't be smoking up front. Just looking for a price with Luxembourg. Mike's going with Wingspan. We'll see if Rebels Romance can win his 2nd Breeders' Cup turf. Hey, let me give you a hot tip. If you liked the content that you've seen before, click on the like and subscribe button right here. And of course, for more DRF videos like Race of the Days, stakes previews, click on the videos right here.